Welcome to the Sports Card Talk Show. Sports Card Talk Show with Kevin Anderson and Lauren Walker, the Skol Brothers.
Welcome to episode 30 of the Sports Card Talk Show. It's another Monday Mount Rushmore. Which team are we doing this week?
We're doing the Bengals this week.
Bengals, nice. I think we got a little help this week too.
Yes, we do. We have Matt from MTSPORTSCARDS on YouTube, MTSPORTSCARDS 8 on Instagram.
Yeah.
So should we give him a jingle?
I think we should.
All right.
Let's do it. All right, we got Matt on the phone with us. We jingled them up. Is that what you say?
Yeah.
We jingle people up?
Yeah. Hey, Matt.
How you doing?
Hey, guys. Good to be here.
Oh, we're glad to have you.
Yeah.
We're excited to see what you came up with the Bengals.
I can't believe someone wanted to talk to me about the Bengals.
Yeah.
well, we do have to do every team, so eventually.
Is there something lesser than Mount Rushmore we can put them on?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if any of them belong on there.
Oh, no. I don't know about that, man. There's a few really good Bengals out there.
Oh, yeah. The history of the Bengals is really surprising, actually. A lot of innovation, a lot of what the NFL is now is because of people in and around the Bengals organization. So that might be the most surprising thing for people to learn.
Sure.
It's easy for the Bengals to be a joke. They've been
Right.
a national joke for a long time. Or just been completely overlooked. I mean, when I was growing up, ESPN would do their last 30 seconds about the Bengals. That's what you would get. So we were starving for some notoriety at some point in time.
I hear you.
So have you been a lifelong Bengals fan?
Yeah, I grew up in Dayton, Ohio. So when you grow up in Dayton, you're kind of in the center, closer to the center of the state, so you can kind of go either way. So you could be a Browns fan or a Bengals fan. Well, I had a beanie that had a Bengals tiger on it, and when I was little, so that's where I went. I went with the Bengals because of my
cool.
beanie.
That's cool.
And to be honest, actually, my first NFL team that I followed was the Redskins.
Oh, okay.
Because they were really, really good in the early 80s. And, they kind of had a similar 80s to the Bengals, actually.
Right.
Except they actually won their Super Bowls.
Right.
But I got a sticker book in 81 when I was 6 years old, and it had Redskins players in it. And so I would watch football, and I caught a couple of Redskins games, and they were good. I mean, it was before Joe Theismann had his horrific injury.
Right.
And he was good. It was fun to watch him. And so they're kind of my backup team, I guess. So, I mean, I'm completely miserable.
Yeah, right now that's not a good backup team either.
You guys, hopefully you're enjoying our Mike Zimmer.
Yes.
Coach. He came from the Bengals. He was the defensive coordinator here, and he did a great job.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So should we jump into your honorable mentions? Well,
real quick, I think it's very interesting that, you guys found me through my channel.
Yes.
MT Sports Cards. If it's okay, I can talk about that for just a minute.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I'll give you time now or at the end, whenever you want to do it.
I'm just really, excited to talk to you guys, and I just watched your interview with Vikings 95.
Oh, yep.
This morning, I was at the gym working out, and I was watching that video.
Oh, cool.
So, pretty exciting. I like Sam, and when I first discovered this whole YouTube phenomena about sports cards, my first thought was, this is literally crazy. This makes no sense whatsoever. And, obviously I found Jabs and some other big breakers and big channels. I actually didn't find PC87 or whatever till way later.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And when I watched Sam, I watched him one time just because one of his promos kind of caught my eye. And I'm like, I'm not going to watch a Vikings channel. This is not going to stick, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And so when I decided to start our channel, his and Football Card Ollie. Not sure if you guys watched him.
Sure.
You know, some of the smaller channels were the ones that really inspired us to do it. Like, we can do this.
Sure.
And then the other thing was, if you read the bio on the channel, you can get all this. But, you know, I would go periods of time without. I have a soon-to-be 13-year-old DMC. You guys have watched. You've heard DMC. He actually had a basketball game.
Oh, okay.
He got his head kicked in just a few minutes ago. My wife just called me. She said the game's over. They played 8th graders, so he got killed.
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's tough.
He's licking his wounds. And then LMC is my 11-year-old daughter, and then I have a 6-year-old autistic son. So I do everything on the channel. You know, not just football cards. We do baseball cards. We open up silly boxes of toys and stuff.
Sure.
So that's, you know, and then me and my daughter, we open up stuff that interests her. You know,
Oh, that's great.
Smallville cards. We did Stranger Things cards, and then just like Fairfield repacks where they repack a bunch of junky toys. So anyway, it was just something I could do with the kids. You know, my daughter's in band, my son's in football and baseball and all that kind of stuff. So we're always going 20 different directions. So it was something to pull us together, you know, to do the channel. So
that's cool.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I'm way more wanting to talk about that than the Bengals, but
we can definitely go the other route on another interview, but this one is for the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, you see the background, I have a Bengal tiger.
Oh, yeah.
It looks really sad.
Oh.
It's my sad Bengal tiger.
It does look sad.
It does, now that you say that.
So my honorable mentions for the Bengals, there really can be a lot of them. And when you're talking about stuff like this, the Bengals, you know, as far as like players go, for years it was all about watching players to see what good things they did. Like, you didn't expect them to win. You just like, you know, but it seems like they would always have one aspect of their game that was amazing or fun to watch. They just could never pull all the facets of the game together. That was the big problem with the Bengals. And the thing, you know, they never called me to ask me my advice on what to do. But what I would have told them is, look, you've got certain pieces, you know, focus on the pieces that are lacking. But they would never do that. It seems like, you know, when they get a first-round draft pick, and they had Corey Dillon as the running back, they'd pick another running back. I can't even remember the guy off the top of my head. He was a Michigan Wolverine. They picked him in the first round. I'm sitting there thinking, you know, your quarterback's running for his life. You can't get any pressure on the opposing team's quarterback, and you're drafting a running back in the first round. I'm like, you know.
Sure.
So with the Bengals, it was low expectations. But my first player is Corey Dillon because – during the woeful 90s, where there was nothing good to watch about the Bengals, we had Corey Dillon, and he was fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Corey Dillon broke Jim Brown's single-game rushing record. Now, it's been broken since, but he rushed for 246 yards, 4 touchdowns, in a 41-14 win over the Oilers. And, you know, to break a record that had stood for 40 years, yeah, that was awesome. You know, and I think ESPN might have done 45 seconds on that story the next day. You know, so,
you got an extra 15 seconds, huh?
Yeah, we got an extra 15 seconds because of that. Do you guys remember a show called The George Michael Sports Machine? Do you remember that show? It was like on Sunday night.
I kind of remember that, yeah.
All sports highlights. And he had this huge machine, and he would hit buttons and stuff and show highlights. You know, I would watch that every week, hoping the Bengals would get a segment, and you know, he'd give them 10 seconds. So I was actually at a game where Corey Dillon rushed for over 200 yards against the Chargers as well. It was like he got like 220 yards, and I had taken my brother to the game. I bought him tickets for his birthday, and it was amazing. You know, so. You know, Dillon was a bright spot. I have a quick story. I don't know how long you want this video to be, but I have a quick story about Corey Dillon. I was at a Bengals training camp. I think it was 2002. I think it was the year after we drafted Justin Smith, or the year we did draft Justin Smith. I was at training camp, and I was there for a youth activity for a church. We didn't actually go to camp. It was like an Amazing Race thing, and kids were going to come there and see you at the place, and you had to sign a little ticket or whatever. Well, I was sitting there, and after training camp was over, I had to stay like an hour after. So everybody cleared out, and the players were just walking around. And I saw Corey walk in behind a chain-link fence, and he was my favorite player. And I ran up to the fence, and I had a notebook, like just a, like a vinyl-bound notebook. And the kid had a football. So the kid tossed the football over. Corey signed it. And then I said, "Hey, will you sign my notebook?" And he just looked at me and gave me a dirty look and walked in the clubhouse. And I was like, "Well, that sucked." So I walked back over, and then there was a guy standing next to me, and I think his name was Keith Brooks, if I'm not mistaken. And he said he was a running back for the Saints, and that he had gotten cut, and he was at training camp trying to get hooked up with the Bengals, and he was friends with Corey Dillon. So I stood there and talked to him. It was very interesting. He was there with his family. They had a big conversion van. His whole family was with him. Had Florida tags on the van. And he said, "Do you want Corey's autograph?" I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm not going to ask for it again." He goes, "Oh, don't worry. I'll take care of you." And he said also, he goes, because it's sometimes at training camp, it's really hard to recognize who's who. And so he said, "You go to that guy and get his autograph," which one was Artrell Hawkins, and I think there was an offensive lineman. So I went and got their autographs. And then Corey came out, and he had just signed his big contract, and he pulled a $250,000 Ferrari around and parked it, and he was showing it off to the other players on the team. And so Keith grabbed my notebook, and he says, "I'll go get your autograph for you." And he walked over to him, and Corey just instinctively, because this guy handed it to him, he put his knee up and he signed it. I still have it. I wish I had it to show you, but it's somewhere buried. And he signed it, and then he looked at the guy and he goes, "What is this?" And then he pointed over to me.
Oh, no.
And Corey Dillon gave another dirty look, and he threw the notebook on the ground.
Oh, no.
So mad he had to sign that autograph. Corey Dillon's also the one that said he would rather flip burgers than play for the Bengals another year. That's another infamous thing.
Oh, boy.
Corey Dillon did.
Yep.
You guys can cut any of my stories out that you want, but that's there'll be less stories moving forward. So that's Corey Dillon. But I mean, Corey Dillon was, I don't think he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but he's very close. His numbers are very close. 11,000 rushing yards. I think he was a 5-time Pro Bowler. So he was fun to watch. And then another one is Jeff Blake. So Jeff Blake, we called him Shakin' Blake. So this is. People won't know this because the Bengals are so horrible, but from 94 to 99, Jeff Blake, Darnay Scott, and Carl Pickens combined for 11,131 yards. It was their air attack, their deep balls. I think Blake and Pickens have 70 deep ball touchdowns between them during that time. And Jeff Blake was, short, average. He kind of could move, which you needed to as a Bengals quarterback. That's the Bengals' problem right now. Their quarterbacks have lead in their shoes. They can't move. They need someone fast. They need to convert a running back to quarterback so he can run away because their offensive line is so horrible.
Right.
So it's weird to use some of these names as an honorable mention because they were so iconic. But Boomer Esiason, quarterback during the 80s for the Bengals and the Jets. I actually was at Boomer Esiason's last game as a Bengal. I was at the Ravens game. I had gotten free tickets from Dick's Sporting Goods for buying a Bengals jersey. And I mean, they were giving away tickets everywhere. They actually finished that season, I think, 7-9. And They won like their last few games, which is what the Bengals are wont to do. That's what they always do. They get you excited for the next season.
Sure.
A few games at the end of the year. So they were giving those tickets away, and he threw his last touchdown pass to the Bengals to Darnay Scott, and I was in the end zone when he caught that.
Oh,
Not
cool.
in the end zone, but I was in the end zone seats.
Right.
So, but Boomer Esiason has 37,000 passing yards. He was the MVP in '88 when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, an 81 career passer rating, and he lost to Joe Montana in the Super Bowl. Which leads me to my next honorable mention, Ken Anderson. 32,000 passing yards, 4-time Pro Bowler, lost to Joe Montana in the Super Bowl. We friggin' hate Joe Montana in Cincinnati.
I see that.
We came so close too. I mean, if you know anything about those Super Bowls, they were not blowouts.
Yep.
It was literally a game of inches. We dropped an interception, and you know.
I remember the second one with the Icky Shuffle, and you know, the Bengals that whole season were playing "Welcome to the Jungle" by Guns N' Roses.
Oh, yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah, that was a fun team to watch.
They really were. And you know, it was things that happened also that has always kind of been the MO of the Bengals that were out of their control. The first Super Bowl, they lost one of their running backs was Stanley Jackson. I believe he overdosed on cocaine the night before the Super Bowl. And didn't make the game. Could have made the difference. I don't know. The second Super Bowl, Tim Krumrie, their center, his ankle in a horrific-looking play. It's one of those cringe-worthy moments in the NFL. If you ever see that play.
Yep.
And you know, obviously, a center is important to an offense, and losing, you know, your starting center for the whole season, it's just devastating. So it's, you know, and then our run when Palmer got hurt by Kimo von Oelhoffen of the Steelers, the year that looked like the Bengals were going to go to the Super Bowl with Carson Palmer and Chad Johnson and Chris Henry, and I don't know if Dylan was there that year. I think he was gone by that time. But anyway, that was a season that we had a lot of hope. And then Kimo von Oelhoffen rolled up Palmer's ankle, and we went home again. So anyway, Ken Anderson, a lot of people think Ken Anderson should be a Hall of Famer. Not sure.
He put up those 32,000 yards in a time when, you know, that was good for those days.
Yeah, absolutely, because a lot of teams were using that bruiser back, running up the middle, you know, type stuff. We had Pete Johnson at the time, which I could throw in as an honorable mention. Yeah, you're exactly right. You know, and there's other similar quarterbacks in that Hall of Fame with similar numbers to Ken Anderson.
Right.
Yep.
And he probably would be. Had he won the Super Bowl against Joe Montana, he probably would be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's true.
That's, I think, the biggest problem is we don't have the wins.
Yep.
And then we got Geno Atkins. It's hard to mention current. I'm not, you know, I put one current guy on Mount Rushmore. We're so mad at the Bengals right now. It's very hard to talk positively about them at all.
I hear you.
When you reached out to me for this, I think it was right about the time we went 0-5. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. But man, I can't believe,
well, we appreciate it.
We're playing for that first round draft pick, the first overall pick right now. I hope they don't mess it up. So, you know, I do think the Bengals aren't as bad as 0-5. I don't think we're as bad as the Dolphins. But, you know, enough about that. Geno Atkins, 7-time Pro Bowler. He's a 4th-round draft pick in 2010. I can't believe it's that long ago. 347 tackles, 72 sacks, and 8 forced fumbles. I mean, the guy is just a beast, you know. Mm-hmm. He would be, you know, just a superstar. You throw him on the Cowboys or, you know, the Packers or now the Vikings or whatever. You know, you throw him on a team that is actually good and gets some national recognition, and, you know, he would definitely be, you know, a superstar.
Zim loves Geno Atkins. Coach Zim loves. He speaks highly of Geno quite a bit.
And it's interesting too, is a lot of our good defensive players that we got during Zim's time here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that obviously he had a lot of input. I mean, the Bengals don't employ scouts. We don't have a general manager. So the coaches at the time, you can see, influence a lot of how their drafts go, which in one way is kind of good. I think, there's a lot of teams like the Redskins that wish their coaches had more control at draft time. And then you got the Bengals that they don't have anybody else, so they have to do it, because Mike Brown is mostly about profits as opposed to winning football. So, yeah, Gino's a beast. Marvin Lewis, it's really even hard for me to give him an honorable mention, but, I mean, come on. Most wins as a coach in Bengals history. He is 131, 129, and 3 as a Bengals coach. So he has a winning record if you count ties. So soccer, they do. The other football, they count ties. So
hockey, you get a point for a tie.
There you go. I wish that was the case.
Marvin returned the Bengals to respectability during his tenure, for sure.
Absolutely. It was the dark ages before he showed up.
Yep.
And there was a lot of stigma around the Bengals in general. I don't think it was ever warranted about the Bengals being like a racist organization and stuff like that. And I really don't think any of that was ever warranted. And there's actually something I want to talk about that points even more to that on my Mount Rushmore. So my next guy's Sam Weish. Sam Weish, they called him Wacky Weish. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that. But, Sam Weish did so many interesting things. He used to have 12 plus guys in the huddle. He would have as many as 15 guys in the huddle, and then he would have guys run off when they would go set up. So I don't think any team's ever done that since, or they never definitely did it before that.
Oh, I don't think they can do it now because that's a 12-minute in the huddle penalty nowadays. So that he probably he probably.
And they'd have guys run off the field. It's probably the Weish rule. I don't know.
Yeah, it probably is.
It was to keep the other team guessing about what personnel you were going to keep on the field.
Sure.
And then he's also one of the first guys to do the no huddle. And in '88, when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, they did no huddle. Like they did the hurry up offense. Now, all that. The best thing that ever happened. Now he also lost to Joe Montana in the Super Bowl, which is true for a lot of Bengals. But he during a game against the Seahawks in December, Bengals weren't doing good that season, and the fans were throwing snowballs onto the field. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this clip, but every once in a while, if I'm feeling tired or down, I'll watch this clip to get me pumped up. He said, well, the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto the field, point them, get them out of here. You don't live in Cleveland, you live in Cincinnati. And oh my gosh, crowd erupted. Go Google it. There's a YouTube video out there. If you want to try to splice a video in for that, it's amazing. It gets you pumped up. Chad Johnson would be my next honorable mention. Ocho Stinko.
Stinko? Did you say Stinko?
No, it's just a joke.
Oh, okay.
He didn't stink. He did kind of towards the end there, but he was fun to watch.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you never knew what the guy was going to do. He was crazy. He kind of gave the Bengals some national notoriety. Just a nutball. I got a story. I did meet him once too. He did an autograph signing in a mall. And so I went there, and not very many people showed up. The line was not big, and it's during the time when he was really popular. You had to stand 4 feet away from him. He had a handler, like a lady that stood behind him, and she was kind of like massaging his shoulders, and she was telling him, "You only got 15 more minutes to go, Chad. It's going to be okay." I swear, you couldn't get he was such a diva. You couldn't get a picture with him. He would not talk to you. You stood 4 feet away. You handed your item to a person. They walked it over to him, he reluctantly signed it, and then you were ushered away. So, Chad Johnson. I don't know. His touchdown celebrations were what he was all about. One time he wore a jacket that said Hall of Fame on the back. 85. He ain't making the Hall of Fame. So. But again, he was fun to watch, and that's pretty much all my honorable mentions. So, are we ready to get into the Mount Rushmore?
Let's do it.
Yep.
You got any questions for me on my honorable mentions, or thoughts, questions? It's the Bengals. I honestly, I try to be more positive about it. My goodness.
Well, you got that 0-5 start. It's hard.
Probably going to be 0-6. Maybe 0-16. I mean, they could pull that off. Now that would get me excited. That would get us some national notoriety.
Yeah,
sure.
Be back up into that 45-second range there.
Yeah, in the wrong way.
Right.
But yeah, we'll go ahead and get into the Mount Rushmore. First and foremost has to be Anthony Munoz. First of all, he's the Bengals' only Hall of Famer right now. Now, we have a presence in the Hall of Fame in other ways, but he's our only official Hall of Famer as a player. Possibly the greatest left tackle in NFL history. Out of USC, third overall pick in the 1980 draft, had big old hair. Just an unbelievable stalwart player. And for someone, to gain that kind of notoriety as a left tackle, outside of Minnesota, name me a couple more left tackles off the top of your head.
There's a couple I could name, but Anthony Munoz to me is definitely the best left tackle of all time.
Joe Thomas. He a left tackle, Joe Thomas? That's the only other one I could think of. Anthony
Munoz looks like he could still put on the pads and go out and play today, too. I mean,
absolutely.
He looks incredible.
He does. And he is, not only, it's easy to put him on Mount Rushmore for Cincinnati because he's still here.
Mm-hmm.
He's still in the community. Here's something you probably don't know about Anthony Munoz. He was a great pitcher. He was he could have gone to the major leagues as a pitcher. He actually USC won the national championship in 1978, and he was on that national championship team as a pitcher.
Oh wow!
So, doesn't look like a pitcher.
No,
looks like a Babe Ruth kind of pitcher, bigger guy.
Right.
He looks like a first baseman or right fielder or something like that.
I would not want to face that guy as a pitcher, and you definitely would not charge the mound if he hit you.
No.
Thank you, sir. I needed that.
That's
what I would say.
Yep.
So, just a stalwart in our community. I do have notes here. I'm not Wikipedia in my brain, so I had to have some notes to keep me on track. But he has a charity in town called the Munoz Foundation. It's been around since 2002, and they've given $20,000 scholarships to deserving kids to a bunch.
Oh, wow.
A bunch of kids. So, he's unbelievable. And he owns a pizza joint in town called Pizza Tower, and I have eaten there. He's never been there. Eating there, but good, excellent pizza. Just, what can you say? But Anthony Munoz, just unbelievable. He's got to be on there.
You didn't mention something about Anthony Munoz that you've mentioned before. Didn't he lose 2 Super Bowls to Joe Montana?
You know what? I don't think he was on that second, the '88 team.
Don't you think?
I think he was with the Buccaneers by then. And but yeah, he levelly lost 1 Super Bowl to the 49ers and stinking Joe Montana.
Right.
So apologies to whoever you have come on talk about the 49ers. and then to add insult to injury, the 49ers absolutely kicked us in the head this year as well. And that was hard to watch. But I actually think the 49ers are a good team. That's off topic, but man, I think they are a good team.
Yep.
So secondly, on my Mount Rushmore, there's 4, right? 4
Yep.
Okay, Paul Brown. So Paul Brown, another one of those, fixtures. Our stadium is named after him. Our stadium has no other name. So we're not like AT&T Stadium or T-Mobile Stadium. It's just Paul Brown Stadium.
Yep.
Which is how much Paul Brown is respected, in our city. And one thing that, you kind of got to give Mike Brown credit for, because he could. Now, I don't think any of us would argue if he wanted to throw a bit, a name on there, Paul Brown Stadium at T-Mobile or something, and get us some better players. I would be okay with that.
Sure.
I'm actually surprised, because you always hear that the Bengals aren't any good because ownership doesn't want to spend any money. So you would think he'd want to put some T-Mobile money in his pocket or something like that.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I mean. Probably, in Cincinnati, it would probably be Kroger's or Fifth Third or something like that, something local to Cincinnati. But and the old stadium did. The old stadium was called Synergy Field for a while, and it had some other name. And but when they built Paul Brown, they just never have done that. So it's not that the Bengals are afraid to spend money. They do spend money. They just spend it horribly. They spend it bad, and that's the problem. But Paul Brown co-founded the Browns. There actually is. It's not set in stone that the Browns were actually named after the Browns. They think so, but I think there was a boxer or something at the time that they said that the Browns also could have been named after. So I don't know. You can ask a Browns fan about that. That's probably a big, conspiracy theory in Cleveland. Who cares? I don't care what goes on in Cleveland. The mistake by the lake. Anyway, but he co-founded the Browns and he founded the Bengals. Now listen to this coaching record for Paul Brown: 159, 80, and 5.
Oh wow!
That is a heck of a coaching line. I think any coach in the NFL would be happy to have it.
Oh yeah.
In college, that might not be great, but in the NFL, that's an excellent coaching record. And he is a member of the Hall of Fame from 1967 as a coach, not a player.
Oh, okay.
He was the first coach to use game film. See, this is where some of the innovations, of the game came from the Bengals or someone in and around the Bengals. He was also the first coach to actually give a test to players so that they could determine their intelligence. So no other team did that. I think the Bengals must have stopped doing that at some point in their history. If I was a betting man, I would just have to say they don't put a whole lot of stock in that. And then he also broke football's color barrier. In 1946, he signed Marion Motley, a tailback, a year before Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in baseball. So, again, that's, kind of overlooked, I guess, in the Bengals' history. So, you got to put Paul Brown on the Mount Rushmore. You just can't leave him off. This one would definitely be contended by people in Cincinnati. I don't care. I guarantee you nobody else would put this guy on their they would probably put somebody current or one of the other guys I made an honorable mention of, but my other choice is Bob Trumpy. And the reason is a couple of different things. Bob Trumpy was a tight end. The tight ends in the NFL were really never used much as pass catchers, and they were more blockers, last option type guys. He was one of the first that was used the way modern tight ends are used, as a pass catcher. So he during that time he was a 2-time Pro Bowler as a tight end, 4,600 receiving yards over 9 seasons, and 35 touchdowns. So that was what he was as a player. Again, and the way I'm thinking about Mount Rushmore is kind of groundbreaking game changers, and that's why I think of Bob Trumpy. He was a game changer.
He's not in the hall. He's not in the Hall of Fame.
He is not as a player.
As an announcer, broadcaster. As a broadcaster.
In 2014, he got the Pete Rozelle Award and was put in the Hall of Fame as a broadcaster. And that's the other thing about him. My love for sports talk radio is a lot because of Bob Trumpy. He was one of the only guys doing it at the time, So, well, as far as we know, we're in Cincinnati. We don't know what goes on in the rest of the country.
Sure.
But he was just huge. He was just a fixture. He's got a great voice. He's got a great announcing voice.
Yeah, he does.
He's just, he's iconic. And he's amazing because I think he's been smoking for like 50 years. I don't know how he's still alive. So, there's my pitch for the cigarette companies. I don't know. But, you can just kind of hear it in his voice.
It's funny whenever you see those old pictures of locker rooms and stuff. There'll be guys smoking at their lockers and stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, my kids can't believe that. My kids, I tell them, like, you had smoking sections in restaurants. You could smoke on an airplane. Everywhere.
You could smoke in the hospitals, in the waiting rooms in the hospitals.
Absolutely, yeah. When your kid was born, you passed out actual cigars and no bubble gum. It was it was a thing. Yeah, it just blows the kids away. Smoking's public enemy number one now. And I'm not a smoker, but I'm also about personal freedom and all that kind of stuff. So that's a topic for a whole nother day.
Right.
So I actually no, I'm not going to talk about it. I was going to say something else. Let's do my last member of the Bengals Mount Rushmore. It's a.j.green, and I had to throw one current guy on there. What happened?
Are you there?
We can see you.
We can see you.
We can see.
Okay, I just can't see you guys. I guess that doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. Froze up on you.
Yeah, I just can't see you. It's fine.
Okay,
you can still see me?
Yep.
Cool. Well, a.j.green, current player. The Bengals, it was like finally got a first-round draft pick right. He was the first-round draft pick in 2011, fourth player picked overall, and he has been a 7-time Pro Bowler, still active, 602 catches for 8,907 yards. His per catch average is 14.8 yards, it's awesome.
Yeah.
63 receiving time. Now, I think the thing that makes it more impressive is he's caught most of those passes from Andy Dalton. Because, I couldn't even throw Andy Dalton an honorable mention. Now, he does have good numbers, but he has good numbers only when he has the greatest offensive line in history and a.j. Green. So, my idea of a franchise quarterback or an elite quarterback is someone who can do a lot with very little. And Andy Dalton ain't that guy. So, and I believe, if he keeps it up for a couple more years, I think he'll be our next Hall of Famer, possibly, he and Geno Atkins, I think, also could probably be a Hall of Famer one day.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that's my guys. That is my Mount Rushmore. So I did do 4, right? Munoz.
Yep.
Paul Brown, Bob Trumpy, and a.j. Green.
Yep.
That'd be a funny-looking Mount Rushmore.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was good. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No. I guess the only guy we actually have on our list that you didn't mention is a guy named Ken Riley. And we actually did some digging and dug him up. And the fact that this guy never made the Pro Bowl, even when he had 9 interceptions one season, a teammate of his only played half the season and had 2 interceptions and made the Pro Bowl. This is back in the 70s, which goes to show you that
was a little bit before my time.
Yeah.
Actually, what's talked about. His topic on local talk radio is one of the most overlooked guys, and I overlooked him.
Yeah. No, I never even heard of the guy before, and the fact that he had 65. I mean, he was overlooked his whole career.
Yeah, I don't know what he did. He must have ticked off somebody.
Right.
He says he's always been low key and let his play do the talking for him. Sounds like a really, really cool dude. I just read up on him when we were doing this because I I'd never heard of this guy before, and he just seems like he says that he feels like him being, you know, low key and soft spoken is now his curse, because he always thought that his play would finally get recognized, and now he just thinks that he's
his curse was probably playing for the Bengals, like,
right.
Because I think you can be a low key guy on, you know, the Cowboys or, you know, the Packers or, you know, some of these other more nationally iconic teams. Even like the Giants, you know, or somebody like that. And, you know, there's other low-key guys that had great stats that are nationally recognized because of the team they played on. You know, he played for the Bengals during a time when they weren't really good, and then put up amazing numbers. And so, yeah, I honestly, I didn't think about him.
Right.
I have no connection with him. I had no, you know, no experience with the Bengals at that time. You know, I was 0 to 5. You know,
sure.
He was playing, so you know, most of my, you know, the guys that I talked about, even except for maybe Bob Trumpy and Paul Brown, but I had, you know, different experiences with them just because Paul Brown is such a fixture.
Yep.
That's kind of what Bob Trumpy as an announcer and a commentator, a talk show host.
Yeah.
You know, I have experience with them.
And that's what's cool about when we have people on, because we really are just looking at stats, and you're actually a fan and are living in that, you know, like we're Vikings fans, so obviously we're more vested in that. So, it's cool. It's cool to get people's perspective on their teams.
Yeah, I almost had a paper bag made, with just eye holes cut out. You know,
I wonder if I can edit that on you.
I think they can lose 16 games, something like that. I don't know. You know, that's the other thing about Cincinnati too, is our Who Day thing. You know, a lot of people think that we stole that from the Saints. That they have a thing. I think they say Who Dat in New Orleans. And ours is Who Day, but it's not. We didn't steal it. I actually think we started saying it before they did it. It's just totally unrelated. And then we also had a beer in Cincinnati called Hewdy Delight. And it's kind of a play on that. Hewdy, Who Day. So
sure,
that's my belief about where it came from. Again, there's probably crazy fans in New Orleans that say, no, you stole it from us. Well, who cares? Whatever.
Sure.
Why would we do that, first of all? And, you know, whatever. Does New Orleans have a Super Bowl? I can't.
They did win one.
Yep.
They did win one. Okay, so
the year after.
You got your Super Bowl. We don't have one yet. So
the year that the Bountygate season winner, they beat the Vikings, our Vikings, to go to the Super Bowl, and then they beat. I don't even think I cared after that.
So that was Breeze, right?
Yeah, Breeze. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I thought Breeze had a Super Bowl, but
sure.
Up until that point, the Saints were like one of the worst franchises in the NFL. I feel like. I mean, Jim Mora brought them some respectability for a minute, but
that gives us all hope.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I'm gonna have to expedite the ending here, only because we're rolling well into the 40s now.
Okay.
And my sister.
I've had a blast.
Oh
yeah.
Appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
I'm really chatty. If you watched any of my videos, you'll know I talk way too much. I'm usually not opening up cards for until the third or fourth minute, and I yell at myself all the time. I'm like, come on, man.
This is purely for my editing purposes, because I'm having a blast talking with you. It's super cool to actually get a chance to see you and to talk with you, and hopefully we can do something in the future again.
Yeah, cool. We'll try to get DMC involved. I know he would think this was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, tell him we said hi. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Will.
Yeah.
His birthday is in a few days, about 8 days. So,
oh wow!
Happy birthday, DMC!
Yeah, happy birthday, DMC!
Happy birthday!
Yeah, awesome. That'd be this will be up by then. Yep, this will go up Monday. So, all right.
This is a lot of editing. I've done longer videos. I can't even imagine. So, I appreciate you doing all this editing for little old me.
Oh,
No, we love
Thanks,
having you on.
Matt.
If you want to hang on for 1 second, we'll just
Yeah.
we're gonna end the show, and then we'll talk for a second. That's gonna bring this episode, the Bengals Mount Rushmore with Matt at MT Sports Cards, to an end. Skol
Brothers
out.
out.